Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to the Wakeful Being podcast. I'm your host, Anshita, and I am so happy that you are here today. Please do me a favor and like, subscribe, comment your feedback in whatever platform that you are listening to this podcast on. It would mean so much to me if you would share this episode with your friends and family, if it resonates with you, if you feel like you got some meaning, some educational, some motivational content out of this podcast. And if we are not already connected on Instagram, feel free to join me for more educational content. I host free meditation classes as well. So you can find me on Instagram for all of that details at wakeful_being. So what are we waiting for? You, Anshita. Oh. Today, we will be diving into a very important topic, which is willpower. We all have so many goals and aspirations of life. We have this vision of where we want to be and how do we want our life to look like. And what is keeping us from where we are today to reaching that goal and that vision of ours? It is execution. And what is the driving force behind this execution that we need to put in the self-effort for? That is willpower. Willpower is the ability to push through challenges. It is the ability to resist temptations. It is the driving force that is propelling us to do something that is difficult for us to do, that we might be facing friction towards. We all know the Nike slogan, just do it. While that might work for some people some of the times, for most people, it is a lot more complicated than turning our willpower on like a switch, right? There is a gradient to our willpower. There are so many dynamic variables that are playing into the degree of willpower that we are able to execute on. Depending on the space that we are in different environmental inputs that we are receiving. What is the capacity of our emotional and mental well-being? How much willpower have we already executed in a day? There are so many interchanging variables that dictate in any given moment how much willpower we are able to deliver. And then in today's day and age, there are so many distractions. It is so easy to succumb to laziness. It is so easy to succumb to just scrolling on our phones or getting sucked into watching another episode of television, right? Whatever the distraction is, it is a lot easier to be lazy and a lot harder to push through the mental resistance that we feel in order to do a difficult task or to control ourselves from a bad habit. Every time that we face that mental resistance from doing a task, we need willpower to get us there. Every time we feel the urge to indulge in a bad habit and we need to control ourselves, we need willpower. I know what you guys must be thinking. So, how do I increase this willpower of mine? Same here, right? I actually chose this topic for a very dear friend of mine. And upon doing the research and looking into my own understanding of willpower and looking at it from a scientific, spiritual, and psychological perspective, I came to realize how much I needed this topic. It came at a very appropriate time, even for me, because as you guys know, it's been a few months since I put out the last episode of the podcast. And one of the reasons for that is because I had been distracted. I had been giving into getting stuck on my phone. How many hours have I wasted just scrolling on TikTok or Reels or YouTube and whatnot? Sometimes that willpower is lacking. And then, we need that momentum from within, which is just like, no, let's do it. Let's do it today. Let's do it right now, right? So how do we start cultivating more and more of this precious resource of ours that is helping us go towards those goals and aspirations and visions of our life? I received a lot of inspiration to increase my own willpower while recording this episode. So I hope that you guys also leave feeling inspired to up your willpower and put in the work and use your willpower to achieve your goals and aspirations in life. Today, we'll be looking at the science behind willpower, the importance of willpower from a spiritual and personal growth perspective, and then we'll be looking into some tools and strategies to increase this very valuable resource of ours. I have some breaking news for you guys. We are using our willpower all of the time. I lift my hand, I'm using a little bit of willpower. I do any action, whether it's a physical action or a mental action, I am using doses of willpower. And when something is harder for us to do versus something that is easier, we are using more willpower for that harder task. Let us jump into looking into the physiology of willpower within our brain. Now, scientists have located which part of the brain is actually responsible for this willpower. And this part of the brain is called the anterior mid-cingulate cortex. And for the sake of this episode, we will be calling this little part Willy, because it is a lot easier to say and remember, and most of you guys are not really going to care about the name anterior mid-cingulate cortex, but if you do, that is what it's called, and nicknamed Willy. Scientists have found that Willy, the anterior mid-cingulate cortex, has been found to have higher resting rate of activity in high achieving individuals compared to lower achieving individuals who have lower resting rates of activity in Willy. The levels of activity in this part of the region responsible for willpower is essentially indicating how much willpower are these individuals using, and higher achieving individuals do use more willpower even at a resting rate. Our brains are obviously very interconnected. Different parts of the brains are giving each other inputs at all times. And Willy gets robust input from parts of the brain that are responsible for context and strategy setting areas, reward systems, and our autonomic nervous system. So essentially, we need to understand what is rewarding to us and what is not rewarding to us. In our everyday life, we can observe what actually helps us feel good in the long run versus what actually depletes our energy and positivity. We can think about scrolling on our phone. In the moment, it might be something that we want to do. It's easy to scroll on the phone, it's entertaining, but over a period of time, we need to realize that, hey, this actually depletes me of a lot of energy. Therefore, it is not rewarding. So we need to execute this part of the brain in order to understand what are the behaviors that are going to give us long-term benefits. And then our autonomic nervous system actually gives a huge amount of input into Willy. When there is an imbalance in our autonomic nervous system, it essentially uses up a lot of the resources to trying to balance that imbalance. And what causes an imbalance in our autonomic nervous system? It is the amount of rest that we are getting. It is the amount of emotional stress that we might be going through. So essentially, we can imagine if someone is in this period of their life where they're going through a lot of emotional turbulence, or maybe they're going through a lot of physical pain. The resources in our brain are going to be utilized trying to balance those emotions and that physical dis-ease. And less of the resources are going to be available to our brain for the willpower part of the region. Therefore, it goes to show that if we want to be high achieving individuals, it is so important for us to take care of our physical and emotional health. Scientists have also found that cardiovascular activity done 3 times per week for an hour or more actually increases the volume of our anterior midcingullar cortex. And what that means is essentially exercising is increasing the capacity of willpower that we are capable for. Therefore, it goes to show that if we want to be high achieving individuals, it is so important for us to take care of our physical and emotional health. There was a very interesting study done by Veronica Yob and her colleagues at Stanford in 2010. And they conducted 4 different studies around willpower and the impact that a person's belief about their willpower had on the willpower itself. And what they found was that the person's belief about their own willpower, whether they thought their willpower was limited or whether they thought that their willpower was non-limited, actually dictated the amount of willpower that the participants were able to exert. So they had 4 different studies within this one big overarching study. And in each of the studies, what they did was they first surveyed the participants on their belief system. They pretty much asked the participants a set of questions to assess whether they exhibited limited belief or non-limited belief about their willpower. After which, they essentially gave them a task which was very mentally consuming and fatiguing. And the goal was to obviously mentally fatigue the participants, after which they were given a sort of assessment to assess their willpower and their self-control. And what they consistently found was that when people had a non-limited belief, they performed better on their self-control and willpower than the people who had a limited belief about their willpower. So our belief about our own willpower is quite literally shaping the amount of willpower and self-control that we are able to hold and exert in our life. So I want to share with you guys some of the questions that they surveyed the participants with. So obviously, in the studies, the participants did not know what the study was about. And all of the questions that they were given were jumbled with a bunch of other unrelated questions to kind of confuse them. And essentially, they were given a set of statements and they were asked to rate themselves how much they identified with the statement from a level of 1 to 6. So I'm going to read the statements out loud to you, and I want you to take a moment and to just kind of introspect on your own rating of how much you identify with these statements or not. A lot of the times, we may think that we have unlimited willpower, but in reality, what our subconscious is actually walking around and executing on a daily basis might be different. So I'm going to read these questions out loud to you. The first statement: strenuous mental activity exhausts your resources, which you need to refuel afterwards, for example, by taking breaks, doing nothing, eating, or watching television. Another: after a strenuous activity, your energy is depleted, and you must rest to get it refueled again. And another: when you have completed a strenuous mental activity, you cannot start another activity immediately with the same degree of concentration because you have to recover your mental energy again. Or how about these next set of statements? Mental stamina fuels itself. Even after strenuous mental exertion, you can continue doing more of it. When you have been working on a strenuous mental task, you feel energized and you are able to immediately start another strenuous activity. After a strenuous mental activity, you feel energized for further challenging activities. So, depending on our own affiliation with these statements, we can kind of understand what is our subconscious belief about our own willpower, whether we believe we have limited willpower or whether we believe we have non limited willpower. Let us now touch base on what does willpower feel like. There was a study done by Joseph Parisi where they electrically stimulated part of the brain in charge for willpower. And the participants were asked to describe their experiences. And I will be reading some of these experiences out loud to you, and you will probably be able to relate and recognize that feeling of willpower that we're speaking about. One of the participants said, something was about to happen. Another, there's a storm out into the distance. I know I need to get into the storm and I know I can make it through the storm. And another, I'm about to go do something and my body is ready. So clearly, we can see the pattern. The feeling of willpower allows us to feel ready for whatever challenge is ahead of us. It allows us to essentially pull the trigger of just doing it. So if we can possibly cultivate the thinking pattern of, I am ready to go do it, we can possibly reinforce our willpower. We can meet our willpower halfway and through our thought process, because our thoughts are so powerful, right? So if we can try to cultivate it, we can also possibly trigger our willpower. Let us now jump into looking at the importance of willpower from a personal growth and spiritual evolution perspective. Willpower is essential for our spiritual, mental, and psychological growth and evolution. We all have these tendencies, innate tendencies in each of us. And there's a spectrum of these tendencies. One end of the spectrum is our animalistic tendencies. They are brute in nature. They give us qualities such as lust, greed, anger, delusion, enviness, etc. They are the cause of all of this chaos in this world, right? They are causing so many fears and uncertainty and misery even within our life. So this is one end of the spectrum of our tendencies, which is the animalistic tendencies. The other end of the spectrum of our tendencies is the God-like tendencies. Now, if you don't believe in God, you can put any label to it, the highest form of our tendencies, the highest version of yourself, right? Doesn't matter what label that we put that in. Regardless, we all have these God-like tendencies. And these tendencies do not have boundaries or limitations. They allow us to feel connected to everything around us. They give us tendencies like wisdom, intuition, calmness, lovingness, compassion, groundedness. All of the good things that we really love and enjoy, feeling. Given that we all have tendencies on this spectrum, how do we, tame the animal tendencies and tread closer and closer towards these good tendencies that we all want to feel? And that is through willpower. Willpower is the source of energy that is driving us to be relentless in our growth, to be relentless in controlling these animal tendencies. One day, if we don't already, we will realize that these animal tendencies are really what is keeping us in this cycle of misery, this never-ending chase of happiness, right? So ultimately, we have to bring these animalistic tendencies, these ego tendencies, under control through the power of our will. Even in one of the most profound yogic literatures, which is the Bhagavad Gita, the main character in this book is Arjuna. Arjuna represents self-control, which is born out of willpower. And in the book, Krishna is guiding Arjuna on this battle that he is undergoing. Arjuna is in the middle of a physical battle, and he is also undergoing a psychological battle because he is actually fighting his very own family. And there's a lot of psychological correlation in everything within this book. So he's actually, even though he's fighting in real life, like his biological family, he is psychologically fighting these animalistic tendencies. And Krishna, who is the God in this book, is able to guide Arjuna to victory of this physical and spiritual battle because he had such a strong willpower and self-control. So it really goes to show that our willpower is so crucial in our evolution. It is so crucial to bring us out of this darkness of confusion and misery and fleeting happiness and fleeting joys that we all live in. It is the fuel that will make the biggest difference in our life. I would also like to emphasize on the need for combining our willpower with our heart's innate love. When our willpower is blinded from our heart's innate love, it can produce giants such as Hitler, who did horrible things, in this world. And a gigantic will like that is blinded from love and compassion, it can cause a lot of destruction in this world. So it is so crucial to also combine our will with our innate love so that we can make sure that we are doing good to ourselves and to our surroundings and to the world. Paramhansa Yogananda, who was a profound spiritual powerhouse, if you haven't heard of him, looked into him, I encourage you to do so. He reminded us of the importance of a calm will versus an anxious will. So understanding the difference between the two, right? Like you feel the willpower coming, but is the underlying feeling behind that will feeling anxious in nature, or is it calm in nature? If it is anxious, centering ourselves, calming our nerves, meditating for a bit, calming ourselves until we can come from that calm place. That is when our willpower is going to be strong and also be aligned with the higher good. I would like to share this quote from Yogananda with you guys, which reads, "Learn to keep your will strong, a calm will, not a nervous will. Your body will then be full of energy. It is by the power of will that you bring energy to your body and utilize it. The greater the will, the greater the flow of energy. If you keep your will intact and use that will to perform all of your physical and mental actions with a cheerful willingness, your body and mind will remain vitally youthful." Having looked into the science, the physiology, and the spiritual perspective on willpower, let us now discuss the tools and strategies that we can start implementing today in order to increase our willpower. The first step is to identify what is it that we desire. On a very basic fundamental level, every human desires to be healthy and happy. There is no lack of information in today's day and age. We all understand the basics of what we need to do in order to really be healthy, right? We need to exercise. We need to eat more greens and vegetables. We need to get good sleep. And we need to reduce our stress levels. Every human wants that for themselves, right? Every human wants health for themselves. And then our desires can be, beyond the fundamentals. Maybe you desire moving up the ladder in your career. Maybe you desire putting out your passions into the world. Maybe you desire making a difference in your community. Whatever your goals and aspirations are, we recognize what is it that we desire. And once we start applying energy towards that desire, we start executing our willpower. We also recognize that we have limited time in a day. And if we already believe that our willpower is limited, then we talked about the study where, our belief is actually dictating the amount of willpower that we have. So if we believe that we have limited amount of willpower and we also have limited amount of time in a day, so then we have to optimize the actions that we are taking throughout the day. For example, if you end up spending an hour deciding on what to eat or a lot of time deciding on what to wear, if those things are not really adding to your goals and your long-term desires, then really you're just wasting that limited resource that you have of your time and willpower on those mundane tasks. So we really have to optimize our actions that we partake in throughout the day and align them with our purpose, with our goals of, that higher good for ourselves. An amazing example of this in action was Steve Jobs and how he wore his black turtleneck every single day. And the reason he did that was because it was one less decision in his day that would fatigue his mental energy. We have to conserve our mental energy and use it, towards something that is not trivial in our life in the long run. It really is the most amazing news that our willpower is not static. We're not born with X amount of willpower and then we just remain with that X amount of willpower all of our life. Our willpower is capable of being increased by our self-effort, by the choices that we make throughout our days. We are capable of increasing our willpower to achieve all of our goals, all of our aspirations and dreams in life. It really is so awesome that willpower is actually a reinforcement circle. What I mean by that is that the more willpower that you use, the stronger that your willpower gets. Just like you train a muscle group at the gym. Let's say you are doing bicep curls with 10 pounds, and you keep doing bicep curls with 10 pounds, and you slowly build that muscle. And now you are able to do 15 pounds, and then slowly over a period of time, you're able to move up to 30, and so on. Similarly, our willpower also increases the more that we use it. And it is so amazing that we have so many opportunities every single day to actually optimize and increase our willpower. Anytime we use our willpower, we are increasing the volume of the part of the brain that is in charge of willpower. So anytime that there's something that we don't want to do, but we do it anyway, or maybe there's something that we want to do, but we know it's not good for us, we restrain from doing it. We are increasing our willpower. So, even in our daily life, let's say that if you don't already, work out, if you start working out, that is going to increase your willpower. If there is a skill that you don't already know, maybe picking up a new skill, there is going to be some friction in doing so. That is going to increase your willpower. Maybe, if you already meditate, extending your meditation by 5 minutes, even when you feel restless, that is going to increase your willpower. Doing anything where you feel that friction coming against you, but you decide to do it anyway. Or doing something that you know that you want to do, but you want to let go of that bad habit and deciding to restrain. We are increasing our willpower. So making those small decisions every single day, every single decision that we make and we execute our willpower is going to compound, and it is going to make a huge difference in our life. Even from a physiological perspective, we now understand that exercising literally increases the volume of the part of the brain that's responsible for willpower. So start exercising at least 3 times a week. We also want to take care of our emotional and physical well-being, because we know that if we are not doing well emotionally, physically, then our willpower is probably going to be limited because our body is utilizing its energy trying to create a balance in the emotional and physical dis-ease. So really allowing yourself to identify your emotional baggage, identify what is it that you're actually truly feeling, meditating on it, validating your feelings, allowing yourself to feel them, and then allowing yourself to release those emotions is also going to be transforming for the capacity of your willpower. I want to also take us back to the study that showed the impact our belief about our own willpower had on the actual willpower we were able to execute. Guys, we are capable of everything that we allow ourselves to believe that we are capable of. The only thing that makes us incapable of doing something is our own very belief. So allow yourself to, notice what are your limiting beliefs and try to observe them first, right? As you observe them, try your best to rewire them, to reframe your belief system. Like, no, I do have more willpower. I can do this. I can do whatever it is that I put my mind to. Whenever we feel that friction in doing something, we can try to cultivate the thought pattern that I am ready. My body is ready. My mind is ready. Let's go do it. And see what that thought pattern can actually trigger within you. Our thoughts are so powerful. They are creating the very reality that we are manifesting every single day. So if we can improve our thoughts, we can change our life. Long story short, we can choose to increase our willpower. Every little bit of self-effort that we put, even in the small things in life that we need willpower for, our willpower does increase. Let us decide to increase this resource so that we can be better versions of ourselves, so that we can achieve more, so that we can let go of these ego tendencies, these animal tendencies, gain better control over them, and then rise and just be the higher version of ourselves. So we come to the end. We have covered a lot of important content today. We looked into the role of willpower in our growth, in our external growth, in our inner growth. We looked into the physiology, the psychology, and the spiritual perspective on willpower. And we looked at tools and techniques on how to increase this very precious resource of ours. So I encourage you to set a small goal every day, to set a small goal that you think might be a little difficult, but you push yourself anyway. And just doing this every single day is going to compound and make a huge difference in your life. You guys, you're so capable of doing everything that you put your mind to. And I believe in you. I am here cheering you on. Please let me know how I can assist. If there's certain conversations that you think might be useful that you would want to have, I'm totally open to that. Feel free to reach out to me on Instagram if so, or just post a comment on YouTube or whatever podcast platform that you are watching this on. I hope that you guys all feel inspired and equipped with the tools and tricks and techniques and the types of beliefs that we need to cultivate to up our willpower, to achieve our goals, to be a better version of ourselves every day. Thank you all so much. And just a reminder to please like, share, subscribe, comment, everything that you can do to support the podcast. It would mean so much to me. I will see you guys next time. Wakeful Being signing off.